When she lost everything, the impossible knocked on the door. The room was too small for 4 people, but the children had learned to fit without complaining. The twin girls slept on a mattress on the floor under thin blankets and pillows made from folded clothes. Their older brother Josh had a bunk bed, old wood, slightly crooked, his feet always sticking out from the edge. The paint on the wall was faded and worn, full of marks from time and from hard times. The morning light slipped timidly through a gap in the curtain, which was really just an old sheet sewn by hand. The light fell onto the bare wooden floor, casting a faint glow over a world of silence, dust, and heat that even the broken fan couldn't chase away. The twins were kneeling side by side, their foreheads resting against their small hands, eyes shut tight and knees pressed into the hard floor. They were only 7, but their eyes held a quiet kind of wisdom, like they'd already seen more than children should. "Dear God," whispered Emily, the more talkative of the two, "Mum doesn't talk to you anymore. She thinks you forgot about us, but we know you still listen." "She's really sad," Ellie added softly. "She stays quiet all the time. She cries in the bathroom when she thinks we're asleep." Josh, who was 9, stood against the wall near the window, arms crossed, watching the dull, colorless sky. He didn't kneel anymore, but he hadn't stopped believing. "God, if you're still up there, if you still hear us, help her," he murmured, eyes fixed on the horizon. "We don't want toys, not even food, just don't let our mom give up." Silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of faith, the kind only children understand. Faith without proof. Faith without knowing when or how, just the certainty that someone somewhere is listening. In the kitchen, Laura had been standing still for almost 2 minutes at the sink, the same cup in her hand, water dripping slowly into the basin. The old radio on top of the fridge gave off static. She didn't notice. Her eyes were locked onto nothing. She hadn't prayed in weeks, hadn't felt peace in months. She had once fallen to her knees. She had once whispered God's name in a dark room. She had begged, pleaded, cried into a pillow, but no answer came. Eventually she stopped expecting one. She didn't stop out of anger, but out of exhaustion. Her life now was made of survival, raising 3 kids, counting every cent, pretending things were fine. She picked up a dish towel and dried the cup slowly. Then she glanced at herself in the cracked mirror above the sink. She pulled her hair back and tied it with the faded blue ribbon she'd once worn on a picnic, back when her husband still smiled and made promises. That felt like another life. She put on a clean shirt, worn but presentable, grabbed the 2 patched-up cloth bags she always carried, and stepped outside. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, but the heat already clung to the air. The walk to the local market was long, but she knew the way by heart. Same houses, same cracked sidewalks, same closed-down gas station, same little church with the sign out front that read, "God hasn't forgotten you." She always looked away from that sign. At the market, she grabbed a basket and moved slowly down the aisles. She checked every price 3 times before picking anything up. A small bag of rice, 1 bar of soap, 2 cans of corn, 3 almost ripe bananas. That was it. She looked at the milk, but left it. Not enough money. At the checkout, she gave the clerk a tired smile, paid with crumpled bills and a few coins, and walked out. Just like every other Friday. That's when he walked in. Daniel, tall, upright, clean shirt, worn boots. Always quiet, always alone. Everyone in town knew who he was. Owner of the biggest farm in the region, wealthy, private, widower. He never smiled, never spoke more than necessary. His face was always unreadable, like a book closed for years. Laura and Daniel crossed paths every Friday. She walked out, he walked in, neither said a word, but that morning he saw her. She walked past with almost empty bags, no makeup, eyes dry. For the first time he didn't just see her, he noticed her. The way she walked, tired like her body carried twice its weight, the way she avoided people's eyes, the way she held herself like someone who used to believe, but no longer did. She wasn't wearing a wedding ring, but he could tell she was a mother, clean but worn, dignified despite everything. And somehow, in that moment, something inside him stirred. A tiny discomfort, a spark, a kind of ache he recognized but couldn't explain. But he said nothing. He walked in, bought what he needed, paid in silence, and left. On her way back home, Laura thought about the things she hadn't been able to buy. The milk, the bread she'd pushed to next week. She wondered if God still looked at women like her, if he even heard prayers whispered by children in a crowded, crumbling room. She didn't know. But that same morning, a broken man surrounded by abundance felt something shift in his chest, and the sky, silent as it seemed, had already begun to move. Daniel didn't sleep that night. The face of that woman, her downcast eyes, her weary walk, the way she seemed to expect nothing more from life, wouldn't leave his mind. It was as if something deep inside him had awakened for the first time in years. 2 years had passed since his wife and children died. 2 years living on autopilot. The farm was thriving, but he was just breathing. Until that moment at the market, until that silent glance. And without realizing it, something inside him began to shift, something that had nothing to do with business or success or productivity. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, in a wooden-floored house with hope hidden in the corners, 3 children knelt before a God they'd never seen, but trusted with everything they had. That night, they made a request with their whole hearts. The list was handwritten, crooked little letters full of faith. Milk, rice, potatoes, a blue toy car, nice-smelling soap, a new dress for mommy, a bedtime storybook with animals. They weren't asking for luxury. They were asking for help, for signs, for dignity. The next morning, without knowing why, Daniel ordered the farm truck to be filled with the best they had. Fresh milk, free-range eggs, potatoes, pumpkins, tomatoes, rice, beans, salted meat, ripe fruits, cheeses, and homemade jams. Everything. Before leaving, he stopped at a roadside shop and picked up, without really thinking, exactly what was on the list. A blue toy car, a cloth doll, lavender-scented soap, a simple new dress, and a children's book with animals. He didn't know why, but God did. That morning, the truck pulled up in front of a small, pale wooden house with a crooked porch. Laura was surprised to see that man step out. The children ran to the gate. "It's him!" Ellie shouted. "The man God sent." Daniel didn't know what to say. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating in a way it hadn't in a long time. "Mom," he said, "I brought some things. Food, gifts. I don't really know why. I just felt I had to." Josh handed him the folded paper. Daniel read it. Milk, rice, potatoes, a blue toy car, nice-smelling soap, a new dress for mommy, a bedtime storybook with animals. He cried, right there, kneeling on the dirt. Laura, silent, covered her mouth. Tears fell without warning. "But how?" Emily answered. "God heard us, Mommy. Even when you stopped talking to him, he never stopped listening." They unloaded the truck together. Daniel and the workers placed every basket on the porch. The housekeeper helped Laura store everything, and as a thank you, Laura did what she knew best. She went to the stove. She made simple chicken and rice, but it tasted like a hug. Beet salad, carrot farofa, fresh lemonade. The scent filled the house. And the eyes of those who tasted it filled with something warm. Daniel ate in silence. He chewed slowly, as if each bite was washing away some old pain. "You have a gift," he said quietly. "Not just cooking. You care." Laura smiled softly, for the first time in a long time. "It's the only thing I know how to do." But he knew it was more than that. Time passed. Daniel began showing up more often. Sometimes he brought eggs. Sometimes he came just to check in. The excuse was always simple, but the truth was bigger. He liked being there, and the children loved seeing him. Josh helped him with yard work. The girls made drawings for him. Laura slowly stopped backing away. She smiled more, let her hair down, spoke about the past, started dreaming of the future again. A friendship grew, but it was more than that. It was healing. Daniel, without rushing, was being healed by that little house, by those giggles, by that woman who no longer asked anything of God, but now had everything she needed right in front of her. And Laura, who once believed life had forgotten her, saw her life being rebuilt, step by step, kindness by kindness. One evening, on her porch, barefoot under a clear sky, Daniel found the courage. "I didn't plan this," he said. "It wasn't what I imagined for me. But maybe it's what God planned all along." Laura smiled, her eyes shining. "You saved my family, and you saved what was left of me." They were married on a quiet Sunday, with the children holding wildflowers and the whole town smiling like it had known all along. The celebration was in the barn. The table was full of rice, potatoes, and joy. Laura's house got a new porch, and Daniel's heart finally found a home. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more true stories of faith, hope, and healing. Your subscription helps these messages reach people who are also waiting for a miracle. Click subscribe and be part of this chain of light.